Hello and welcome to episode 22 of Long Shots, our weekly podcast where we discuss anything and everything relevant, interesting and intriguing from the world of business, finance and consumer interest oriented topics. Welcome to all our listeners, and before we start ahead, a friendly reminder, we are streaming on iTunes, Deezer, Spotify and pretty much any other podcast app that you like. So do subscribe to our channel so that you get the nice little notification every time our episode goes live. So I have with me Sharad Tupran and this is Nikhil Arora. Hey Sharad, what's going on? You seem to be in a good mood.
Yeah, not much. I'm just laughing about something that I heard a while back about, an inside joke. So rather not go down there, but it's good to be here as always. And I look forward to chatting. And we've got a lot to cover, I guess, today. Very diverse subjects.
We always have a lot to cover, Sharad.
More the merrier, right?
More the merrier. Well, first things first, last week we saw the RBI do the rate cut. I think that actually happened literally when we were doing our podcast.
Yeah, that's correct. We went sort of real time live. We were on our phones and looking at any announcement that comes in, right?
Yes, and the main premise behind the rate cut, I guess, was inflation has been at an 18-month low.
Yeah.
It's outside the 4 plus minus 2% set by the RBI. But I think both of us kind of tended to disagree on the fundamental premise, even though we expected the rate cut.
Yeah, largely yes. I mean, I think expected that it will happen. And there was a lot of political noise leading up to it, with all these, which sort of suggested that something will happen, which is, sort of at least optically stimulates growth, helps improve the numbers. So
yeah,
rate cut speaks to that narrative.
But you know what interesting data point came yesterday? You recall that out of the headline inflation number, the core inflation number was still high at 5.7%. That kind of made us think that maybe this is a supply-driven, deflationary scenario rather than anything else.
Yeah.
But now the core inflation number for January came out and it's even lower. It's 5.4%.
Oh yeah.
So from 5.7. So actually, even as per our argument and premise, that itself now seems to be a more theoretical argument. So I think we can expect more dovish behavior going forward.
Yeah, and I guess so. 5.7, 5.5, 5.4. Let's see, how much they were expecting. But do you think there'll be another rate cut in the next meeting?
Market is already making that noise that in April MPC they might do another one.
Yeah.
Unless, there is some sort of a very rapid pickup in demand, that might be something to look for.
Yeah.
Investors can rejoice, but we'll have to see what will be the long-term implications of it, obviously.
Yeah, hopefully it's again on a Thursday and we can sort of tune in real time.
Yeah, that's my hope as well. And with that, let's move a bit further west. First, Qatar. That's something that you have looked at. I recall you wrote a piece where it was a long shots, right? Where we looked at Qatar's exit from OPEC and its impact with respect to trade on crude oil, on LNG worldwide. And now I was reading that Qatar is exerting a lot of pressure. I think it was Petrotech 2019. That was the event where one of the representatives of their company said that LNG might better be included within India's GST framework. What do you say to that?
Yeah, no, I heard that's exactly it. Qatar Gas CEO is sort of suggesting that LNG should be included in GST framework, which is currently not amongst diesel, petrol, fuel and other aviation turbine fuel. Those are the few things which are exempted, right, currently. Now, first of all, natural gas is very, very important to Qatar.
Right.
It's the largest
right.
export line item.
Right.
The world's number one producers of natural gas and exporters. They do about 77 million tons on an annual basis, and they want to take it up to 110. Right. India is obviously one of their biggest buyers. India imports about 8.5 million tons a year. Now, if you recall, like you correctly said, their departure from OPEC a while back, one of the key reasons was that they wanted to focus more on natural gas side of things, and they're really not that big an oil player as one would expect. So they obviously departed, and now you're seeing that focus come into different shape and forms. One of them being sort of, I guess, politically now going into their key buyers and looking at the political frameworks or economic frameworks in there to see what can help them. So this is clear indication of what they're trying to do. And like you said, they want to put it under the GST, right? They think that India will increasingly lean towards cleaner sources of energy,
Right.
LNG being considered cleaner than oil and crude. So they want to, their argument is give it more incentive, right? Give the buyer or user of LNG transfer more incentives. So putting it in the GST framework clearly incentivizes it, and you understand the sales tax and excise duty regime, which is often thrown or slapped on to the crude and natural gas and energy sector.
Yeah.
So what I guess there is less of an impediment when it comes under GST, correct?
So, I mean, for the benefit of the listeners, I mean, right now, when it comes to indirect taxation, there are two, I would say, regimes which are going in parallel. On one end, you have GST, which covers pretty much most things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, GST is where you have 4 slabs of taxation, starting from 5% going up to 28%.
Yeah.
It includes most, day-to-day commodities and products, but some key products are excluded from the GST framework, notably alcohol and fuel.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, are
Can be used interchangeably.
no, no, I didn't mean that. Now I know about your drinking habits, Shahid. So, no, what I meant was, I mean, they're obviously the two single biggest components of revenue accrual for the government. So, no wonder they are not included in the GST framework, and they still are included within the VAT
Yeah.
plus state import duty excise kind of regime.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, if you look, I mean, I don't know the numbers on LNG, but I have done a bit of study into crude oil. Now on crude oil, like for instance, when it comes to the oil marketing company, after that there's a central excise duty, which is almost 24% of the retail selling price of oil. And then on top of that, you have dealer commission. You also have VAT, and in total, around 45% of petrol's retail selling price is comprised of duties and VAT.
Yeah.
So if you compare that to GST, which is at max can be 28%.
Yeah.
I mean, I see the rationale. I guess similar numbers would fly for LNG.
Yeah. Directionally, I guess it's fairly intuitive, right?
Yeah. So because I think LNG must be following a similar framework. So yeah, obviously Qatar wants the regime to move towards the GST side and make it a more attractive proposition for the end user.
Yeah, and I think LNG demand as such is expected to grow like mid-single digit, 4-5%
Yeah.
year over year, and
I mean, we are already number one on LPG.
Yeah, we are number one on LPG.
I think
correct.
thanks to that Ujjwala Yojana.
Yeah.
But I guess and I think on crude oil also, it's India is going to become one of the biggest consumers. So I can imagine that LNG also has a similar trend.
Yeah, I guess strong correlation with GDP growth numbers, right?
Right.
And interestingly, this is the second company which is sort of suggested or lobbied to the Indian government to include it in the GST framework.
Right.
The other one being this Russian company called Rosneft, I think.
So they were pushing for the same.
Yeah, oil though.
Okay.
Yeah, they also were, trying to make an argument that it should be within GST framework for, easier, higher growth or whatever logic it be it. But
Right.
So clearly, like there are big suppliers or exporters of natural gas or energy sources clearly want to leverage or make adjustments to the Indian GST system to sort of drive an uptick in demand, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel, that with the interim budget behind us and practically nothing around LNG or crude oil and taxation within that, I think this probably would be a topic postponed to post-elections because I mean, it has a big revenue impact, right?
Yeah.
So possibly this will be revisited, later this year. I mean, it completely depends on the outcome of the election.
Yeah.
Obviously, consumers are going to be happy, and if the voters have leverage in whosoever comes next to power, I imagine this might be on the cards.
Yeah.
But if suppose someone comes back with a good majority and are very stable and they are clearly confident about their position, they might wait it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, there's a lot of political noise with it.
Yeah.
Let's see how that unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's I often see a trend in our conversations every Thursday, and when we are following some particular thematic base, and then a couple of weeks later, the theme repeats itself. Like I recall only a few weeks back, we were talking about Ola and how it's trying to diversify, getting an NBFC license, trying to find new ways to, get that growth captured.
Yeah.
And now it's Swiggy.
Yeah, no, Swiggy stores, I think, is what they're unleashing now,
Right.
and stepping out of sort of food delivery from restaurants into areas of other products, from healthcare products, baby products, groceries, and vegetables and things like that. So they're tying up. I think they've started in Gurugram, if you will,
Right.
as their, I don't even want to use the pilot, but let's call it first project is in that vicinity. Sort of checks off the boxes, dense, significant population in terms of usage, urban
Right.
population. So they're trying that, and it's interesting, like you said, it's another avenue for growth, right? Now they're sort of competing against Big Basket and Amazon and whatnot, I guess,
Yeah.
with getting into this delivery. And at the end, their competitive advantage, I guess, is runners on the street.
Yeah.
It's a logistics company, right?
Right.
And so they can
Really? I thought it's a tech company.
yeah, because they have an app.
Yeah.
Much like WeWork.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so they're obviously chasing growth as well. Makes intuitive sense, I guess. Another thing that they're obviously doing is trying to get into more and more cities. So that's taking care of one side of growth, right? Just cookie cutter, deploy the same thing in different cities.
Yeah.
Keep going deeper and deeper into India. And there's obviously a roadblock that will eventually hit, but they're doing that. But on top of that, they're also trying to change the nature of services that they're offering.
Right.
And getting into, I wouldn't be surprised if they enter into other lines as well, like other logistics driven, demand based delivery services, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think, I get it, it's a logistics company, but logistics also has so many layers. I mean, right? I mean,
Yeah.
delivering a medicine is different from probably delivering a pizza.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of how the end user is expecting that service to pan out. So I think there definitely are some integration issues.
Sure.
Right? Which probably only time would say if they're able to do that. I mean, I mean, they are at least following a, uniform sectoral theme, that it's delivery
Yeah.
of one sort or the other, but commercial deliveries, personal deliveries, the size of the product, the urgency, those factors are pretty different across different
Yeah.
value chains, right? I mean that's something that we also noticed while looking at Ola, right? That when they acquired a pharma delivery company, we were like, okay, I mean, delivering a human being through a cab is different from delivering a medicine.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure Swiggy will kind of experience those same challenges.
Yeah.
To some extent. I mean, what I think overall, it's an interesting trend. Obviously, as a delivery platform, they are chasing growth.
Yeah.
But it also kind of gives an additional lever of sorts to offline retail, that they can now compete with online retail through
Correct, yeah.
services like that. So that's an interesting trend to watch out.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's definitely a key angle, and sort of I think Zomato is the leader in this sphere in India. I think they're hitting like 21 million monthly run rate in orders.
Right.
So less than a million a day.
But they are, I think, they are doing more of vertical integration rather than horizontal,
Yeah,
right?
it's different. And yeah, the reason I say that, if Swiggy is chasing behind, so they're, let's say 600,000 or 700,000 orders a day.
Right.
They clearly want to take that number higher.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as high as it goes, the better it is. But I'm guessing they have an internal target, right, of doubling it in 3 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to do that, I guess they realize that it cannot just be food.
Yeah.
There has to be other growth drivers, or growth levers at play. So, like,
But I guess that's an approach that Zomato hasn't taken, right? Zomato is doing more than just different parts of the value chain of the food cycle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like they kind of, obviously they are into table reservations. They are obviously into home delivery, but then they have a loyalty program, which which is a great offering.
yeah.
I don't know how well it does from an economics perspective for them.
No, I have a lot of close friends who swear by it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
use that very tactfully.
My wife also recently did her debut on
Yeah.
Zomato Gold, so I also see its benefits. But yeah, but yeah, their strategy is, I guess, different. They are basically going deep into food
yeah,
as an area.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Swiggy is following a similar approach to Ola, probably, like going a bit broader.
Adjacent areas.
Yeah, adjacent areas.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like, who knows how they both will evolve. But you're right. I think Zomato is sort of trying to cover the food ecosystem or dining ecosystem in its entirety.
Yeah.
And Swiggy, on the other hand, is sort of has the logistics at its core.
Yeah.
And is trying to leverage what else it can do with that. So different will be interesting, and I won't be surprised.
The question is, which one is a logistics company and which one is a tech company out of them?
Both are logistics companies.
Both are logistic companies, right? That's an interesting angle where the overall ecosystem is heading, and in terms of were you were telling me about this interesting tweet, right? I think we are now looking at payments, no longer at Swiggy. What can you refresh the memory?
Are you talking about the Ronnie Screwwala Paytm? Yeah. Like I think I can't remember the number, but I think he tweeted about getting a significant discount on a coffee that he was buying at some airport, I think. And the reason of that discount was using his Paytm.
So he got a cashback.
Oh
yeah, he's $70.
$70 was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and I think on then Vijay Shekhar Sharma, I think he commented on that tweet saying that $70 is not a very high customer acquisition cost for you for someone like you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's rather cheeky of him to do that, right?
Yeah. No, I remember that now. Yeah. I saw that tweet as well.
Yeah.
And Paytm is obviously doing well, I guess, in terms of how they're evolving. And you obviously understand NBFCs and how they're encroaching on, how they're taking that turn. But recent numbers suggest they're leading now in terms of transactions?
Yeah, I think there was a recent numbers. I don't know the overall numbers, but UPI numbers came out. And on UPI, I think they are number one right now at 221 million transactions. That's Paytm. And then
that's monthly, right?
Yes, I think so, yeah. And on top of that, then the next two guys on the block are Google Pay and Phone Pay.
Yeah.
And both are 220 million each. So not a very distant
second. Yeah, it's hardly anything.
Yeah. And
it's more like a rounding error.
Correct. And then the remainder is just 11 million. That's all the rest of the providers.
Okay.
So it's kind of like it's oligopoly of sorts, right? At least on the UPI ecosystem.
Yeah.
But before we go there, what do you think? Like $70 cashback? Would you equate cashback to a customer acquisition?
Not really.
Yeah. Why?
Because I don't think they've acquired a customer in the long run. It's a one-off transactional.
If you keep on getting the cashback,
that is the thing. So then the customer acquisition cost changes. Then
it's 70 multiple times discounted to today.
Yeah, exactly, right. At God knows what discount rate, but yes, that's what it is. Right?
Yeah, and if I'm PhonePe, I give $140 of cashback. Not much of a switching cost there, right, for the customer.
No switching cost at all, right? So that's an interesting debate, right? I mean, how do you even define customer acquisition cost? Is it one time or is it recurring?
Right.
It's I don't look at it as a customer acquisition cost. It's a transaction acquisition cost, if you will, TAC.
Right. Well, I mean, but overall, UPI is interesting, right? Because like the Unified Payments Interface, it's a government-driven unified interface where all mobile wallets and payment providers are now tapping in. It's growing up very nicely. And I guess government also introduced an app of their own on UPI, Bheem. Yeah. But seems that they are now being kind of getting cannibalized by the private players, right?
Yeah. How many are, like, their numbers are way below the...
Yeah, it's, I think, in teens, tens of millions, right?
Yeah.
I think not really in the same range as 650 million, which UPI boasts.
Yeah.
But I mean, a few other numbers came out in the same report. Like, I think Paytm came up with they calculated the average ticket size on each. So, I mean, all of them are in the range of like 1,200 to 1,700 rupees.
Okay.
It doesn't really say a lot. Average transaction on UPI is around $1,600.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is that the majority of transactions on Paytm, PhonePe and Google Pay via UPI are actually peer-to-peer. They are not merchant transactions.
So that's interesting. By peer-to-peer, it's like let's say you and I are transferring money. I'm using Paytm, so that qualifies as peer-to-peer.
Correct.
But if I go to a, let's call it mom and pop vendor who has typically he or she has a QR code put up on their storefront, and I just scan it with my phone and Paytm, that's merchant, right? Yeah.
So I mean, like I think the analogy here is if you look at credit cards, right? So if you look at a credit card or a debit card, when you go to a vendor, the vendor usually has some sort of a point of sales device in which you swipe the card. So the vendor has obviously, registered with the POS provider and the network provider and is paying some sort of a monthly charge for getting that POS device.
Yeah.
Right. And on every transaction, the vendor is sharing some acquisition fee with the issuing bank, right? But obviously when it comes to the mobile payments world, the POS device becomes obsolete because it's just a mobile phone on the other end.
Which acts as a POS device.
Right? But obviously Paytm has an enterprise kind of side to it. So, I mean, on the website itself, you can actually create either a business account or a personal account.
Yeah.
On a business account, I assume you must be getting some advanced functionalities, QR code being one of them, and then probably you get more data. You probably get some monthly, weekly reports. But I assume if you kind of look at the small time vendor in the Indian context, I don't know, like if you go to like a local grocery shop or a kirana store, I have a feeling they don't really have a merchant account, right? They'll just be having like a personal account. Like
I think so. I think a lot of them will have that.
Yeah.
And in that case, it's sort of, I don't know, it's in the lines are blurred now all of a sudden between merchant and peer.
Yeah, I mean, once your volume goes beyond a certain limit, obviously you might need a merchant account, because I think as a personal Paytm account holder, there must be only a finite amount of transactions in terms of value that you can conduct.
Yeah.
I guess for a merge, but I think a lot of the vendors are not breaching that limit.
Yeah.
So no wonder the P2P side is bigger than the merchant side.
Yeah, and also I feel like merchant side would have a transaction, a real then and there exchange of goods and services for a transaction on the other end.
Right.
A peer-to-peer might be sort of like, if I'm giving you $500 on Paytm and I'm like, you know what, like just pay for me at the next time we go out or something like that.
Yeah.
If you're making those kind of adjustments,
Yeah.
then that sort of does not get captured, right?
Right.
And I guess that's another little thing. But yeah, I mean, when phones double up as POS devices, it becomes very tricky very soon.
I mean, I feel that WhatsApp is so well positioned in this, right? Because they are by design a peer-to-peer player, and for an Indian market where the average ticket size is not around, is like 1,500 rupees per month. I mean, who cares if you don't have merchant services? WhatsApp, everyone has WhatsApp.
I've used WhatsApp payments as well, right? It's just the UI and the experience is absolutely seamless.
Yeah.
And I mean, then you have this whole data localization thing, but that would be another opening up another can of worms there. But yeah, I mean, WhatsApp is clearly, no wonder you're seeing local players like Paytm get nervous, and also sort of for their whole growth of industrial logic is to sort of have data localization, right, for them, so that they can gain additional competitive advantage when it comes to some guys from overseas who can sort of get into this payment sphere easily.
Correct.
So just to create more roadblocks, as you will.
Yeah.
So I mean, WhatsApp is clearly very well positioned. Numbers are on their side. Like you said, almost literally everyone has it. I mean, speaking freely, but everyone has it. So
I mean, the question is, I don't know what's the latest status of. I think they were already in talks with NPCI. I mean, WhatsApp so far has only released a beta, which a few people have. I think for 2 million people or something like that. Both of us were somehow within those 2 million.
Yeah.
We have used it. We like it.
Yeah.
And the biggest advantage of using WhatsApp was how seamless it was. There was, you link your bank account once, then all you need to do is enter your UPI PIN, and you're in. There was no two-factor authentication like the one you have to do in Paytm, and that was the main bone of contention from VSS. I'm now quoting by his Twitter handle, saying that why is it that all domestic players allowed to transact only via two-factor authentication, and why WhatsApp can do it seamlessly. And NPCI came and said that because this is a beta, this is not the full version, and the full version will include everything. So it like the point being that how WhatsApp's product is going to be once two-factor authentication is introduced, only that would drive how successful they would be in. But I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's a product company. They'll do a fine job. They'll definitely have as good an experience as a Paytm or a PhonePe. Less.
No, I agree. And at the end of the day, like, user experience is becoming increasingly critical in all these things.
Yes.
So let's see how that goes. But clearly, Paytm is making the right noise. Numbers are taking along well. They're definitely seeing growth. The UPI universe as such is seeing healthy growth month over month. I think they did 672 million transactions in January, and that was up from 620 in December last year. So the environment seems very conducive for more action, right? And more action means more stuff for you and I to talk about, more stuff for our listeners to listen to.
That's correct. Very, very, very thoughtful way to end this podcast, Sharad. Was this scripted? No, it came out naturally.
Everything comes out naturally.
Brilliant.
Here.
And I hope everyone enjoyed today's conversation. As usual, feel free to rate the podcast and drop in your comments so that we can make it a better product. And have a good weekend, and see you next Thursday. This is Nikhil Arora.
This is Sharad Tupran
signing off.